Hello. There's no script for this video. It's just kind of me thinking out loud, I guess, and kind of sharing some thoughts and feelings that I've had for a little while now. When I joined my film brand years ago, Crescent Skull Cinema was founded by two guys, Benji and Jimmy. They were a couple church janitors that were interested in doing really intense horror. And I got the advice from my agent, Anne, to create opportunities for yourself where you can. So I joined the film group. We worked together for about a year and a half, along with a few others that came and went along the way. And Benji is a very passionate individual with big goals. He had like a 1-year plan and a 5-year plan for how we were going to take this business seriously and start making money, making movies. And about a year and a half after being with them, I left the group because I felt like I was the only one contributing financially. And I was turning down a lot of opportunities to make time for what they wanted to do. They didn't make any more movies after I left, and about a year after I left, I asked them if I could continue with the brand name since they weren't making any more movies, and Benji said, sure, this is more your thing than ours anyway, because I made the website and all that stuff. Benji actually died last November. We might not have been the best fit as far as a film partnership. He was a really good friend. He was really nice to be around. He was very talkative. He was always smiling. He was always laughing. So it just kind of took all of us by surprise. But I have kept in the back of my brain the whole time that this needs to be a business, that there is an objective to this, that you need to make your first feature film after, 5 years of Crescent Skull Cinema. And for a while, when I was a janitor, which is funny, a lot of us were janitors in Crescent Skull Cinema, there was one point when I was listening to a podcast and it just kept being like, then you need to go for your feature, your first feature. The feature is the big benchmark. It's like the make or break of a lot of people, and you need to do this. When I started making YouTube videos, my brother Bobby directed me to a video by Olan Rogers where he talks about the stairway to success. There's this ladder to success, and there's a lot of people that they just want to, especially when they're becoming YouTubers, they just want to sprint up the staircase and they want to get there as fast as they can and grab all the sponsorship deals that they can and make a bunch of money. And he was saying that star burns fast and bright, but then it burns out and it's forgotten. And he wants to do things slowly and the hard way, and that every time that you take a step up the ladder, you have to pull everybody else up with you. You have to level up as a community. And I'm really glad that Bobby showed me that, because it put a lot of things into perspective, and it kind of showed me how I want to achieve any sort of level of success. I insisted when we started the brand that we pay our actors every single time, even if it's just $20 for a couple hours of filming. We need to get them lunch and we need to get them money. And I still stand by that. And as things have progressed, I've given a little bit more and more as I'm capable of doing. Some advice that Rebecca Cook, who's the president of the Spokane Film Project, gave me when I was asking for advice on a movie I was working on. She said, the best thing that you can do is get very knowledgeable people that know what they're doing, give them the things that they need, paying them, feed them, making sure they have the equipment they need, and then to just let them do what they're gonna do, let them do what they do best. I've taken that and Bobby's model of success and really tried to make that my priority for how I do things. A little bit of backstory about me is that when I first moved to the West Coast to be an actor, I was living in a car, and by the time that I finally found a house to live in, I had exhausted my savings, and I had oftentimes less than $50 in the bank. But we made it work. I found a place I could rent for $400 a month. I lived there for several years. I was working as a waiter during the day and a janitor at the night. There was one point in time when I worked 4 months in a row without a day off, but I paid off that student debt, and then I was able to start saving up again, and it was very weird to have any sort of money in the bank because I'm so used to being the working poor. This last December, the car that I had that my parents so graciously let me have, granted, this car is already 20 years old, almost 20 years old, and all three of my siblings, including the younger one, learned how to drive in it before me. When I was moving out here, they wanted to help me out, so they let me have that car, which was incredible because paying for a car was going to be impossible at the time. This past December, that car died, and I had to replace it. And the cost of replacing that car with any sort of reasonable, reliable car, I had to pay $27,000 for that. So I got a loan from my bank for $23,000 for that. And with the payment plan I've set up, that is $500 a month. And that extra $500 a month seemed like it was going to be achievable, but now I started last month with just $1.12 in the bank, to be completely transparent. It is just getting so difficult that I still need to make another $400 in this last week of June if I'm to pay all of my bills on time. Granted, I live with somebody that is capable of helping spot me when I need it, but I just need you to understand that's where the position that I've allowed myself to get into. I don't respect myself as far as my time or my finances. There was a stretch of time when I just had no work coming my way at all, especially in the winter. That's the slow season. It is every year, so I don't know why it's always surprising when winter approaches, and then I feel that same way. I'm part of several Facebook groups that post casting calls and crew calls, and I saw somebody posting about a script that they wrote that I read it, and I was like, oh, you have to make this. You know, I think you did a wonderful job. And I agreed to help them produce it to make it happen. They shared their YouTube channel with me, and it was a high school student that very clearly they were passionate about what they were doing, but they just didn't have the support to help, you know, elevate it. And I saw an opportunity for me to help somebody else. So I agreed to do this, and then I found out that it was going to be 4 hours away from where I live. I was mistakenly thinking it was here in Portland. But I'm like, you know what? I signed up for it. I'm going to do it. And I helped sew 2 very involved costumes. I needed Sam's help to make one of them because I just had no idea what I was doing. I'm so proud of them costumes for this movie. It took so much time. And I got the materials for that from a thrift store. Granted, I still had to spend money for that. I upgraded a lot of my equipment so that way I had some more interesting things to use on this set. I knew I wasn't getting paid for this, but I was just glad to feel needed. The night before the shoot, they postponed it, and I wasn't going to be available anymore, so I had to withdraw from the project. But I had spent that time, that preparation, and I drew an entire storyboard for that, which takes a long time. A lot of the storyboards that I draw are at least 80 panels. I had just forfeited a lot of time I could have been using to make money on my regular job to do this because I wanted to, and that's my fault. I wanted to then make my first movie here since moving to Oregon with people that were local. It was either the end of February or the beginning of March. Just on the actors and crew alone, the rate that I was paying was $50 a day, which I feel like they deserve more than that, but because these were like 6-hour days we did 3 days. So I spent like $650, I don't know how much it was on the the actors and the crew. The house I was able to use for this is an hour drive away, so it was the gas for that. The homeowner graciously allowed me to have 2 days of going over there and setting up my floor plan for lighting. I'm very happy with how that one came along. I was able to get somebody to do a score for me too as part of their grad school project. They needed a film to do, so that one will be out soon, but I spent a lot of money on that one. How do we even start this? There was a passion project, meaning one that you're not getting paid for, that I agreed to do in Seattle because I really believed in the story. I was very moved by the whole cast and crew. And I don't regret it for my experience there with any of those people. But what I do regret is accepting to do it because I spent basically all of my savings on gas to get there and back and to compensate for all the time off that it took, because I had to take off 7 or 8 days of making trips up and down from Seattle off of work. 3 of them I was able to do in a row, so I didn't have to leave Seattle. But that put me so in the red that I had $1.12 in my bank account. That brings us to today. And last week, I was hired for $100 to be the DP for a set. They offered this to me 3 months ago. It was a group I worked with last year. I was moved that they were offering me anything because I knew that was a lot for a lot of people to give me $100 to do this. But I said yes. I spent 3 months working on the storyboard. It was about 150 panels, and even then I didn't get the last half page of the script done. And out of respect for the people involved, I'm not going to really comment on my experience there. All I'll say is that the writer-director and the actor that they manage, that was the lead in this, were very, very unhappy with me when that film was over. And I wrote to the director privately, and I said that they could keep the $100 if they wanted to get somebody to reshoot it with them or, touch up the audio that they weren't happy with. And I never got a reply back on that. So that's 3 months of time that I asked to come home early from work so I could work on this, or have a long lunch break so I could work on that storyboard. And then 3 days of not getting pay during a busier part of the week. So I clearly don't respect myself or my time. I've allowed myself to get in such a low place where I've thrown out my back 3 times this last year working at my restaurant job. The world is in such a place where it's very hard for any restaurant to hang on to staff, and they need to really lean on the people that know what they're doing and do a good job. So I have been getting a Herculean load placed onto me from my restaurant. And this most recent time that my back got hurt, it has remained numb for a few days now. It's not as bad as it was before, but enough that I've had to initiate setting up a plan to see a doctor, which is going to be expensive, but that's the world we live in. Jumping back to 2020, I was so fortunate to be able to make 8 short films in that time and to pay everybody. And it made me feel fulfilled. It made me feel like I was doing a good job and being productive, and I was proud of myself. And when I realized that it's not sustainable financially, I made a Patreon for all of 1 month, and I had 2 people that helped give me money to make a movie. But I felt so uncomfortable accepting that money that I ended my Patreon after 1 month, and I gave everybody all the perks that they signed up for. I'm so uncomfortable asking anybody for their money to help me with my stuff, because if they don't like the end product, I feel like they'll be disappointed in how they spent their money. I also feel a lot more pressure and less enjoyment from the art of making things when it requires people's money. And with Crescent Skull Cinema, having their 5-year plan being that they were going to make a feature film and make this a business, I felt so much pressure that I've just lost a lot of the joy of making things. That the only thing that brought me happiness recently was realizing that I can say, I'm only going to be making movies as a hobby now. It doesn't have to be something that I pursue as a career. I'll still continue trying to be an actor and try to make it, but I'm at peace with that. I'm never going to do a crowdfunding campaign to make a feature film. I don't have expectations of getting distribution or getting people interested and being able to make more and more grand feature films. But what I can do is continue to do my best to write something that serves a purpose for some underrepresented group or some issue that isn't being spoken about. And I can continue to uplift my community and write parts specifically for actors that are trying to get their foot in the door and looking for footage for their reels and looking to get connected. And I can be a joyous person that enriches other people's lives and makes them happy. So I will never do a crowdfunding campaign. I'm probably never going to direct a feature film unless I'm able to get a grant to make one. And I've allowed myself to get so burnt out on things that I shouldn't have allowed myself to, because now I can't take a day off if I need it. I have to work as hard as possible at work in order to survive every month, because I'm this close to being late on bills and ruining my credit. And they raised our rent $50 a month. You can't even get a loan for a house anymore because all loan companies want you to liquidate your retirement fund for closing costs. It's going to be about 3.5 years before I have my car paid off at this rate. So I'm in a hard spot, but I've had my first 2 days off in 2 months. I'm on my second of those days off right now. I've gotten a lot of sleep. My body's had a chance to recover. I feel a lot happier than I had been the last few months. And I'm excited for what's down the road. And I feel like something amazing is going to happen soon. I don't know what it is, but keep your fingers crossed for me. And thanks for however long you've been following these movies or me as an actor or just my life in general on this YouTube channel. But thanks for your time. Treat everybody excellently. Think about how you can improve the life of your community, and insert last thing here, because you always need a list of 3, right? That's the English major in me coming out. Okay, bye.